The Russian President Vladimir Putin has taken a sharp dig at the European nations. He has said that Western Europe is deprived of sovereignty. Now, Putin's harsh criticism comes following 7 European leaders meeting with Donald Trump at the White House. The French President Emmanuel Macron, the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer were amongst the European leaders who had met Donald Trump, along with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky earlier in the week. Now, hating out at the European nations, Vladimir Putin said that for Russia, its sovereignty is the most important thing, because the loss of sovereignty will mean the cessation of Russia's existence. Now, taking a jab, Putin said that Western Europe has been deprived of sovereignty at this moment. In another statement, Putin said that Russia has no unfriendly relations with any nation, adding that there are unfriendly elites in states. He further said that Russia has good relations with the people of those nations. In addition to this, he also claimed that there is a Western propaganda that is ongoing which says that Russia started the war, even though it was started way back in 2014 against the population that lives in the Donbas region.
To be honest, what projects have we lost from so-called unfriendly countries? Well, by the way, we don't have unfriendly countries, we have unfriendly elites in some countries. But I can assure you that we have good relations with the peoples of those countries. Propaganda, of course, works. They brainwash people and say that we started the war, forgetting that they themselves started the war in 2014 when they began using tanks and aviation against the peaceful population of Donbass. That's when the war began, and we are doing everything we can to end it.
While claiming that Russia is doing everything that it can to end the war in Ukraine, Putin also expressed hope for the restoration of relations with the United States with Trump's arrival. He's admitted that Russia-US relations are at a low point, but this is where it's interesting. He says that there is light at the end of the tunnel because of Donald Trump. All right, now to give us more insight in this, we are joined on this broadcast by Ambassador Joachim Bitterlich, who is a former German ambassador to NATO and also the former European diplomatic and security advisor to the former German Chancellor Helmut Kohl. And he's also the former German ambassador to NATO. Ambassador Bitterlich, thank you very much indeed for joining us on this broadcast. Let me in fact start off by this criticism that the Russian President Vladimir Putin is pointing towards the European nations. When the leaders of the European nations went and met with Donald Trump, he now says that these European nations have ended up losing their sovereignty because they live under America's security umbrella. How do you view the statement by the Russian president?
Well, it's classical, what I call Soviet propaganda, or now it's Russian propaganda for the last years. It's clear. If you take seriously what Putin is telling us, this means that the European nations have never been living, let's say, in an independent way. They have always been lacking sovereignty with regard to the US, because the Europeans have been living since the end of the 40s, since, let's say, this aggressivity of the Soviet Union under the American nuclear and military umbrella. And therefore, well, it's nothing new what Putin is telling. And speaking about hostile elites in the Western world, to some extent it's silly. I think when you look back to the last 30 years, it's clear we had open hands towards Russia. We saw Russia in trouble, lack of stability, and we are trying to help Russia, let's say, to come towards, let's say, a real stability. Not any aggressive attitude from our side, nothing.
Right.
And by the way, Putin is forgetting the war has not begun, or the aggression has not begun in 2014, but in 2009. He is forgetting Crimea. As a typical Russian, for him, Crimea has always been Russian.
All right. Now, one very interesting thing that he also said is that he says that the US-Russia relationship has plummeted in ways that he did not expect. But under Donald Trump, he says that there is light at the end of this tunnel. Do you expect this thaw, if one were to put it, between Russia and the United States, with Donald Trump in charge of the White House, to continue? Why do you think the Russian president seems fairly upbeat while dealing with Donald Trump?
Well, please, I think this sentence is interesting, extremely interesting. Light at the end of a tunnel. This means for Putin, the door is still to some extent open towards the Americans, not towards Zelensky, not towards the Europeans, who are vassals of the Americans in his eyes. But the door is still to some extent open. It's up now to Trump to open this door more, or to come back to the agenda Putin has been dressing with Trump together during the summit in Alaska. This is, again, let's say, it's an excellent propaganda act, I think.
All right, excellent
Well done.
propaganda. All right. We'll have to leave there. Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador Bidlick, for joining us with that perspective there.
As always, with pleasure.